The countdown has officially begun for one of NASCAR's most talented drivers, but the timeline might look very differently from what he predicted nearly a decade ago. Kyle Larson just dropped a major hint about his future, and while he isn't walking away tomorrow, the conversation around his eventual exit from full-time Cup Series racing is suddenly very real. It was back in 2017 and 2018 when Kyle Larson first stirred up the NASCAR world with a rather bold statement. He openly expressed a desire to step away from the Cup Series before his 40th birthday to chase a full-time championship in winged sprint car racing. That comment caused a lot of raised eyebrows at the time, because Larson was still establishing himself as a weekly threat. Fast forward to today, and not only has the conversation shifted, but Larson himself has completely changed his perspective on what he wants the next chapter of his life to look like. In a recent interview, Larson made it clear that turning 40 is the next major milestone in his career. He just celebrated his 34th birthday on July 31st, meaning we're looking at a roughly 6-year window before he seriously evaluates stepping away. The key difference now, that burning desire to pursue a sprint car championship has essentially evaporated. Larson admitted that he has changed his mind entirely on pursuing a sprint car title. His reasoning is rock solid. Since making those original comments back in 2017 and 2018, his dirt racing resume has become the stuff of legend. He's captured 3 Knoxville Nationals victories, 3 Chili Bowl crowns, and a King's Royal, among countless other marquee wins. In his mind, there is simply nothing left to prove on the dirt side that a championship would add to his legacy. He questioned what a grueling 80 to 90 race sprint car schedule would actually give him at this stage, especially when his trophy case is already overflowing. That realization shifts the entire narrative. This is no longer a story about a driver torn between 2 disciplines. This is a story about a family man carefully mapping out the final phase of his prime. Larson specifically pointed to his children as the deciding factor. By the time he hits 40, Owen will be nearing the age where a potential NASCAR career could be taking shape, and his daughter Audrey is already heavily involved in racing. Larson's decision won't just be about whether he can still win races. It will depend entirely on where his kids are in their lives and their own racing interests. He noted that he's found very comfortable balance with his schedule right now and is genuinely enjoying it, but he also acknowledged that things might look very different 6 or 7 years down the road. The timing here is incredibly interesting given what's happening on the other side of Hendrick Motorsports. Alex Bowman recently announced that he plans to retire from full-time Cup Series competition following the 2027 season, when he'll be just 34 years old. Bowman isn't even married yet and doesn't have children, but the physical and mental toll of the 38-weekend grind was enough for him to set a hard exit date. That announcement makes Larson's timeline feel even more logical. If Bowman is feeling the weight of the schedule at that age, it's entirely understandable why Larson wants to reassess everything once he hits 40. This also lines up perfectly with the business side of the sport. Larson signed a 5-year contract extension with Hendrick Motorsports back in February, a deal that essentially locks him into the number 5 car right up until that 40-year-old checkpoint. Hendrick clearly knows the timeline and has planned accordingly. The team has already secured a successor for Bowman in 2027, with Connor Zilisch expected to slide into the 4th Hendrick entry. A successor plan for the number 5 car, however, is likely still a few years away from being finalized. That's where the pipeline gets fascinating. With Zilisch taking over Bowman's ride, there isn't an obvious Cup Series landing spot right now for top development prospect Corey Day. Day doesn't turn 21 until November, which means he has plenty of time to mature. The long-term vision could very well involve Day gaining experience elsewhere before eventually taking over the number 5 car whenever Larson decides to park it. It's a scenario that makes almost too much sense. There's also another layer to this story. Kyle Larson isn't just a driver splitting time anymore. He's a team owner. He co-owns the high-limit racing sprint car series and regularly runs midweek events with that series. This ownership role gives him an emotional and financial stake in dirt racing that doesn't require him to grind out 90 nights a year in a sprint car. He can scratch his dirt racing itch while still prioritizing his family and his Cup Series commitments. What makes this situation so compelling is that we are watching a generational talent consciously design his exit strategy years in advance. This isn't a driver being forced out or fading away. This is a 2-time Cup Series champion with 32 career wins who wants to leave on his own terms. He wants to be present for his kids. He wants to keep that competitive fire without sacrificing everything else. And honestly, that's a blueprint a lot of drivers in the garage could learn from. For fans, the takeaway here is crystal clear. Enjoy every single lap of Kyle Larson over these next 6 years, because the man himself is already starting the internal clock. He's not gone yet, and he's still one of the favorites every single weekend, but the conversation has officially moved from if to when. The countdown may be quiet, but it's ticking, and it's going to reshape the entire NASCAR landscape when it hits zero. If you want to follow every development in this story and catch all the latest NASCAR headlines as they break, hit subscribe so you never miss an update.